Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're venturing deep into an unseen world. We're talking about a place where literally every rustling leaf and overturned stone hides a mystery that is completely unknown to modern science. We are heading straight into the pristine, ancient rainforest of Sri Lanka, which is just this absolute hidden gem of biodiversity. And honestly, what we found while digging into this is so thrilling. We're going to explore species that no human eye has ever officially recorded, and even more importantly, we're going to look at the incredible and frankly often dangerous work required to bring them into the light. So get ready, because this is an adventure into the absolute wild.
But before we really step into the jungle, let's ground ourselves in a reality we all share. It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? You turn on the news and see that these gorgeous ancient forests are just being cut down, whether that's in Hosdale, Nicobar, or honestly countless other places around the globe. We sign the petitions, we raise our voices, and yet we still end up watching these vital ecosystems vanish. It's really easy to feel helpless. But that shared frustration, that's exactly why this mission is so critical. The baseline truth we have to accept is this: if we can't save all the forests in our immediate backyards, we have a profound responsibility to fight for the ones we actually can save, wherever they are in the world.
Okay, let's dive into this. Now, you might be wondering why we aren't going to tell you the exact coordinates or even the name of the forest we're discussing today. We have to refer to it strictly as an undisclosed location. Why? Well, because the very moment a location containing rare, undocumented species goes public, it becomes a massive target for poachers and the illegal wildlife trade. It spreads like wildfire. So we're keeping this pristine Sri Lankan rainforest a complete secret, just to protect the delicate, unheard stories hiding right beneath its canopy. It's one of the absolute last remaining untouched rainforests on the island, and keeping it off the map is literally its first line of defense. To truly understand this environment, you've got to picture trekking alongside Dr. Ranil Nanayakara, who is one of Sri Lanka's top conservation biologists. And let me tell you, this is a place of extreme contrast. On one hand, you have the intense danger. Every single step you take, blood-sucking leeches are trying to climb up your legs. So yeah, not exactly a walk in the park. You're constantly navigating around the highly venomous crate, which is a snake so dangerous that if it bites you, you have a maximum of 1 hour to get anti-venom before it's fatal. But right next to that intense danger is just pure wonder. You'll stumble across carnivorous pitcher plants with their little lids closed tight, just digesting dead insects in their deadly fluids. You find completely unnamed tarantulas and these beautiful pipe snakes. It's this breathtaking visceral sensory overload. In all of that dangerous, exhausting trekking, it yields some pretty incredible results. 40. That is the exact number of completely unknown species that Dr. Ranil and his nonprofit organization, BEER, which stands for Biodiversity Education and Research, have discovered in just the last 5 years. We're talking spiders, scorpions, snakes, amphibians, animals completely, entirely unknown to global science. But here is the terrifying part about all of this. These 40 undocumented species are facing immediate extinction. If they aren't scientifically documented very, very soon, they could vanish from the face of the earth without us ever even knowing they truly existed.
The 6-step discovery process.
So, there is actually a massive gap between spotting a weird bug out in the jungle and officially adding it to the scientific record. It takes this really strict 6-step process. Step 1 is field exploration, venturing out into that dense jungle. That's easily the most exciting part, but also the most time-consuming because, well, you just never know what you're going to find. Then comes Step 2, specimen collection, to actually bring a sample back to the lab. Step 3 is the morphological exam, dissecting and looking at the animal's physical traits right under a microscope. Step 4 involves comparative analysis, where you literally travel to global museums to compare your find against known species. Step 5 is molecular analysis, things like DNA sequencing, just to be absolutely sure. And finally, Step 6, publishing your findings in a peer-reviewed journal.
But let's rewind to Step 2 for a second, because specimen collection holds this really fascinating surprise. Traditionally, to examine a specimen's internal anatomy, a lot of scientists will capture and then immediately kill the animal. But Dr. Ranil practices something incredibly rare called ethical collection. He actually captures the rare specimens alive, creates a custom habitat for them in the lab, and literally waits for their natural death before he studies their internal anatomy. It requires immense patience, obviously, but it perfectly highlights his deep, genuine respect for the very biodiversity he is trying to save.
Okay, but let's say you've done all that. You've explored, collected, examined, and compared everything. You finally reached Step 6, publishing. Now, you might think actually writing the paper is the hard part, but the biggest hurdle is almost always financial.
To publish a single research paper in highly credible, high-impact scientific journals like Nature or Science, that can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. That is an absolute fortune for an underfunded nonprofit. It proves a really hard truth. Saving the world through science isn't just about hard work and bravery out in the jungle. It is incredibly, sometimes prohibitively expensive.
Section 2. The threat of illegal trade. And while these scientists are waiting to raise those crucial funds, time is really not on their side. The threats out there are imminent and they are devastating. Deforestation is tearing down the canopies. Forest encroachment is shrinking their habitats by the day. Unregulated so-called development is bulldozing through the very ground they live in. And perhaps the most insidious threat of all of them, the illegal wildlife trade. These fragile, unseen animals could be completely wiped out before a single scientific record is even made.
To really put this into perspective, during a recent field expedition looking for a rare spider, the research team stumbled upon just an absolutely heartbreaking scene. The area was totally littered with holes. Poachers had completely destroyed and dug up the tarantula burrows. And for what? For the illegal pet trade. People in distant countries are paying top dollar to have exotic pets basically just to show off in their living rooms. And for that sheer vanity, local smugglers are ripping these animals right out of their natural homes, entirely collapsing the local ecosystem in the process.
Now, looking at all this destruction, a very logical question arises. You might be sitting there thinking, why spend thousands of dollars on fancy microscopes and journal publications? Why not just take that money and spend it directly on saving the forest? Put up some fences, hire some guards, and just leave the animals alone. It's a totally fair question, and it directly challenges our basic assumptions about how conservation actually works out in the real world.
So, the crucial point we need to understand is this. Conservation entirely depends on scientific documentation. Without a scientific record, as far as the law is concerned, that animal simply doesn't exist. And if an animal isn't proven to exist, you cannot petition a government to declare the area a protected national park. Documentation creates this massive ripple effect. It generates global awareness, it brings in research tourism which boosts the local economy, and it provides the undeniable legal proof needed to force government protection. At the end of the day, you literally can't legally protect a secret.
Section 3. The cost of conservation. Which brings us to a rather harsh financial reality. Following the pandemic, international funding completely dried up for bear. Right now, they have a backlog of 40 incredible, newly discovered species and absolutely zero budget to document them. If we look at the absolute transparency of their costs here, it takes roughly 5 lakh Indian rupees to sustain the field teams, buy the lab equipment, travel to those international museums, publish the papers, and educate local villages for just one single species. It shows exactly how every single dollar is absolutely essential to complete that documentation and conservation cycle.
Section 4. Save a species, name it.
So, this is where the story shifts to what we can actually do to help right now. To understand this, you need to know a pretty fascinating rule of taxonomy. When a scientist officially discovers and documents a new species, they get the incredible privilege of giving it its official scientific name. But there's a very strict rule. A scientist cannot name a new species after themselves. The name must be given to honor someone else. It could be a mentor, a historical figure, or a significant benefactor who actually made the research possible.
And that brings us to this very specific magic number, $1,200. While the total operational costs of the organization obviously run much higher, a specific, targeted donation of $1,200 effectively covers that final, crucial documentation gap. The publication fees, the immediate lab work, everything required to push one of these 40 unknown species right across the finish line into the official scientific record.
And here is the ultimate reward for stepping up. By funding that final $1,200 gap, the organization will honor your vital contribution, the contribution that literally saved this animal from undocumented extinction by naming the newly discovered species after you. This isn't some marketing gimmick, this is a permanent legacy in the global scientific record. For example, a recent major donor just had a stunning new tarantula species named Poecilothera rathii in their honor. You can absolutely use the links provided by the Bear organization to donate whatever you can to support them. But for those who can step up to that $1,200 tier, you literally become a permanent part of natural history.
We have 40 species right now. Snakes, scorpions, spiders, amphibians. They're sitting in a lab today, waiting for the funds to be scientifically recognized before their natural habitats are totally destroyed. They are quite literally waiting for a hero.
So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to ponder. Which of these 40 unknown secret wonders of the Sri Lankan jungle is going to carry your name for the rest of human history? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go out there and be a part of scientific history today.